Welcome to Northeast Mississippi Rewind. I'm Brad Locke, Assistant Sports Editor for Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. Joining me tonight is not Gene Phelps. That's John Pitts. He's the sports editor filling in tonight. He's been inside all night trying to make all this come together, which it did quite nicely. I just get back from Starkville, saw a great game between the Yellow Jackets and West Point. We'll get to that in just a moment, but thanks for joining us, and thanks to the Saltillo cheerleaders for making this banner for us. Of course, we had to cut out a lot of it. We'll work on that. Each week, we're going to get some cheerleaders to make a banner to go behind here during the rewind. You can call Todd Vineyard at 842-2611 if you want your cheerleaders to contribute to this. We'll work out the dimensions on that. But thanks to Saltillo. Anyway, a lot of wackiness tonight, John. I'm sure you were able to glean that just from being indoors tonight.
Well, I think anytime that you get a game where it's 54-44, I don't really care who's playing, that right there tells you that you've got a, it's like, is that a basketball score? What's going on there?
It's almost basketball time. No, that was Baldwin beating New Albany 54-44. First time they've played each other, I think, in 21 years, so they made up for some lost time there. We'll get to that game in just a moment. Upset of the night, though, I think, was Okolona defeating Calhoun City. Calhoun City, the number 3 ranked team in the Daily Journal small school rankings. Okolona, 27-8 winners, and they are now 3-0 under new coach Ken Byers. So Okolona making a big move in Region 1-1A there. Calhoun City considered one of the favorites to win that. Of course, we had the wild game, Baldwin and New Albany. Zadrian Shelley for Baldwin scores 3 times. He's coming back from an injury. He missed last week, so that's big for him. So number 1 Baldwin now 3-0 on the year. Again, I was at Starkville at West Point, 16-13 was the final. West Point pulls out a defensive struggle. Just a great back and forth game. I thought Starkville's defense had the speed to match the speed of West Point's offense, but West Point made more plays, and of course 7 turnovers, so Starkville had a rough night offensively.
What kind of shape was the field in over there? We saw some stories tonight where people said that some fields were wet from the rain.
Still wet, and it was tore up because they let them play a JV game the night before on Thursday night. So they may have slowed down West Point a little bit. They're built more on speed. Starkville is more of a power team, but you know, in the end, Starkville committed too many turnovers. Starkville controlled the pace for much of the game, but West Point just came up with the big plays when they needed to. We had Pontotoc and Ripley. Coach Dan Pierce suffering his first loss at his new school, Pontotoc. Ripley comes out 21-7 winner, so the Tigers ranked number 4 by the Daily Journal, now 3-0. They got 205 combined yards from Jacquees Cook and Michael Poole. I believe that's Michael Poole. Forgive me, folks, I'm kind of winging it. I just got back from Starkville not 20 minutes ago. But anyway, Ripley off to a good start. The Cook and Poole are going to make a lot of noise this year, I think, in Class 3A. Another game, Booneville-Saltillo, a couple of teams looking for their first win, and Booneville pulling it out 35-6. The Blue Devils going to a new quarterback this week, sophomore Jerron Jones. The other guy was not getting the job done. Coach Drury went with Jones, and he ran for 177 yards, and he also had some help from a little-used running back by the name of Drew Christo. Forgive me, I had to go find that name. Drew Christo has not played a lot. I've seen him the last couple of weeks, though, and he's had some good runs, and he had a big night tonight. He had 157 all-purpose yards and a 55-yard punt return for a touchdown. Of course, can't forget about Tupelo against Amory. Tupelo losing last week to Grenada, so they needed to bounce back, and they did it in a big way. Ken Davis had another big game against the Panthers. It's the 3rd time he's rushed for over 200 yards against Amory tonight. Ken Davis had 251 yards and 3 touchdowns. So in 3 games against Amory over the last 3 years, Ken Davis has 743 yards. I expected this to be a bit more of a game. Did you talk to Gene Phelps? Was in earlier. He's now in bed asleep or something. Did you talk to Gene about that game at all?
No, not really. I just know that it seems like as goes Davis, so goes Tupelo at this point, just based on what they're trying to do, and he has proven to be a little enigmatic.
Yeah, I mean, he had cramps last week against Grenada, that is something that plagued him last season, but tonight he apparently was cramp-free and had a big game against Amory, so hopefully Tupelo can build on that momentum. You have something to add?
I think he left Amory with the cramps tonight.
Yeah. Well, Pat Bird has to see him no more, so I'm sure the Amory coach is glad about that. heck, we're moving so fast, Alicia, you haven't given me the signal yet, so we'll just go ahead to the 5 stars. We'll start with Ken Davis once again, 251 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tupelo had 389 total yards, so it was a lot of Ken Davis. Reginald O'Brien, the running back for East Webster, piled up 268 yards on 31 carries. He scored twice as the Wolverines knocked off Smithville tonight, and that was a final of 43-12. East Webster now 3-0.
O'Brien had a 64-yard punt return in that game.
And that is something East Webster does. I mean, they just know how to return kicks and punch for touchdowns. They had a bunch of those last year and the year before, something they work on, and that's been a big difference. They reached the state championship game last year, of course. So a Region 1-1A win for the Wolverines. Star number 3, we just mentioned him a moment ago, Jerron Jones, the sophomore quarterback for Boonville, 11 carries, 177, 3 touchdowns. Aberdeen with a big win tonight, 2-1, now under new coach Chris Duncan, and Jamerson Love ran for 136 yards and on 11 carries, 2 touchdowns for the Bulldogs, who defeated Hamilton 48-7, a Monroe County rival. So I heard Brandon Speck, our writer over at the Amory and Aberdeen papers, on the radio on the way back, calling into the scoreboard show. And Brandon had the audacity to say that Aberdeen might actually could give Louisville a run for its money. Louisville, of course, the school that dropped down from 4A into Region 2-3A with Aberdeen, with Amory, with Nettleton, and Louisville beat 4A power Kosciuszko tonight. But Brandon, at least, you know, he follows Aberdeen closely. He thinks they've got the athletes and the horses to hang with Louisville, so they'll hook up at some point this season. We'll see about that. Star number 5, finally, DeAndre Platt, the quarterback for Vardaman. I believe he's a sophomore. He's a sophomore. He ran for 5 touchdowns, or he accounted for 5 touchdowns, and a big win over Faulkner. Platt's really coming into his own quite early. He was a big part of that upset over Bruce last week. And so Vardaman off to a 2-1 start. They bounced back from that season opening loss to Calhoun City. So that's the 5 stars for tonight, John. Anything else to add?
I was going to say on Platt, you got 3 passes, including a 68-yarder, and then he ran for a couple more. So that's a lot on the film to look at.
Yeah.
If you got to play them now.
So Vardaman, I think, is going to be really good this year. It appears that way. We thought maybe this would be a rebuilding year for the Rams, but off to a good start there with Coach Mark Bray. That's all we got for tonight. Appreciate you joining us. You can read about all the high school games in Northeast Mississippi in the Saturday Daily Journal, jam-packed with info. And again, thanks to Saltillo. Give Todd Vineyard a call at 842-2611 if you want to help out with the Northeast Mississippi Rewind. For John Pitts, I'm Brad Locke. Good night.